The gravel crunched under her tires as Olivia pulled into the driveway, her mind still floating in the peaceful haze of her spa weekend. 3 days of massages, wine tastings, and freedom from responsibility had left her refreshed and glowing. She'd barely thought about home, about him, about any of it. That was the point, wasn't it? But something was wrong. The white sign staked into their meticulously maintained lawn made her foot slam the brake. For sale, Davis & Associates Realty, it proclaimed in bold red letters, complete with a professional photo of their house and a phone number she didn't recognize. Her hands trembled as she shifted into park. This had to be a mistake. Some cruel prank by neighborhood kids, or a misplaced sign from the property down the street. It couldn't possibly be real. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the living room she'd left cluttered with magazines and throw pillows now stood empty except for a few pieces of furniture. Her favorite reading chair, gone. The decorative vases from her mother, vanished. The wedding photos that had lined the mantel, disappeared. Nathan. Her voice echoed in the hollow space. Nathan, what's going on? He emerged from the kitchen carrying a box labeled Olivia, miscellaneous. His face was calm, almost serene, in a way she'd never seen before. No anger, no hurt, just a quiet certainty that made her stomach drop. "You're home early," he said, setting the box down with the others lined neatly by the door. "I thought I'd have another hour." "What is this? Why is there a for sale sign in our yard?" Her voice pitched higher with each word. "Because the house is for sale." He picked up a packing tape dispenser, sealed the box with practiced efficiency. "The realtor thinks we'll get offers by Tuesday. Market's hot right now." Olivia felt the room tilt. "You can't just sell our house. This is insane. We need to talk about this." "No," Nathan said simply, moving past her to grab another empty box. "We really don't." "Stop." She grabbed his arm, but he gently removed her hand. "Nathan, please. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. Couples therapy, a vacation together, whatever you need." He laughed then, a sound devoid of humor. "A vacation together? That's rich, coming from you. What's that supposed to mean?" "Olivia, you just got back from your 4th weekend away this year. It's only June." He began placing her books into the box, each one handled carefully despite the circumstances. Before that, it was girls' nights every Thursday. Wednesday pottery classes. Tuesday yoga retreats. Monday book club. "So I have hobbies. That's healthy. My therapist said." "Your therapist," he interrupted, "told you that maintaining your individual identity in a marriage is important. She didn't tell you to abandon the marriage entirely." The words hung between them like a blade. Olivia's mind raced back through the past months, trying to remember when they'd last had dinner together. Really together, not her eating leftovers at 10 p.m. while he sat in his office. "You never said anything," she whispered. Nathan's hands stilled on a hardcover mystery novel. "I said everything, Olivia. You just never listened." He walked to the kitchen and returned with a folder, placed it on the single remaining coffee table. "Divorce papers. Already filed. I had them served while you were gone, but since you came back early, I'll just give them to you directly. Saves the process server a trip." "You can't be serious." But even as she said it, she knew he was. The precision of the packed boxes, the efficiency of his movements, the deadness in his eyes where love used to live, this wasn't a rash decision. This was planned. "Your things are packed," he continued, gesturing to the 15 boxes by the door. "Your car's already loaded with clothes and toiletries. Your mother's expecting you. I called her yesterday. She knows you'll need a place to stay." "You called my mother?" Humiliation burned through her shock. Someone had to. He picked up his keys. "I'm leaving for a few hours so you can take your things. When I come back, I'd appreciate it if you were gone." "Nathan, please." But he was already walking out the door, leaving her standing in the skeleton of their life together, finally, devastatingly, alone. The restaurant buzzed with holiday cheer, red and green lights twinkling above couples celebrating the season. Nathan had made reservations at Olivia's favorite Italian place 2 weeks in advance, requesting their usual table by the window. He checked his watch, 7:47 p.m. She was 17 minutes late. The waiter approached for the third time. "Still waiting, sir?" "Just a few more minutes," Nathan assured him, sending another text that would likely go unanswered. The bread basket sat untouched, the candle burning lower with each passing minute. When Olivia finally breezed in at 8:23, she was laughing into her phone. "No, Bethany, you were absolutely right about the Chardonnay. I'll bring 2 bottles to book club next week." She slid into her seat without looking at Nathan, still talking. "Okay, love you too. Bye." "You're almost 45 minutes late," Nathan said quietly. "I know, I'm sorry. Bethany and I were shopping for the charity gala, and you know how she gets when she finds a good sale." Olivia grabbed a breadstick, finally meeting his eyes. "We can still have a nice dinner though, right?" Nathan had prepared a speech. He'd practiced it in the mirror that morning, gone over the key points during his lunch break. But looking at her expectant face, flushed from wine she'd apparently already had with Bethany, he swallowed it all down. "Sure," he said. "Let's just order." They made it through appetizers with Olivia recounting Bethany's drama with her interior designer. The entrée arrived with stories about the yoga retreat she was planning for New Year's. By dessert, she was scrolling through her phone, showing him photos of pottery pieces she wanted to make. "Are you even listening?" she asked, noticing his silence. "I'm always listening, Liv. The question is whether you notice." She frowned. "That's not fair. I'm here, aren't I?" "Physically, yes." He set down his fork. "Do you remember what today is?" "Friday. It's our anniversary. 8 years married, 10 years together." Her face went pale, then flushed red. "Oh my God. Nathan, I completely forgot." "Yes." He signaled for the check. "It's fine. Bethany and her Chardonnay recommendations are obviously more memorable." "Don't be like that." Her hand reached across the table, but he didn't take it. "I've just been so busy with everything. Things slip my mind." "I slip your mind," he corrected. "There's a difference." The drive home was silent. Olivia stared out the window while Nathan gripped the steering wheel, his carefully planned anniversary surprise, tickets to the Bali trip she'd been dreaming about, still hidden in his jacket pocket. What was the point? She'd probably cancel it for another pottery class anyway. That night, as she fell asleep without another word about their forgotten anniversary, Nathan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The distance between them felt like an ocean, and he was drowning in the middle of it, while she sailed away, oblivious to his calls for help. He should have said something then. He knew it. But the words felt too heavy, too real. So he let them sink, along with everything else he wasn't saying. 3 days later, Olivia announced she'd signed up for a weekend wellness retreat in the mountains. "It's just what I need," she said brightly, not noticing the way Nathan's jaw tightened. "Bethany and the girls are all going. It'll be so rejuvenating." "Sure," Nathan said, turning back to his laptop. "Have fun. You're the best." She kissed his cheek, already texting her friends about what to pack. Nathan opened a new browser tab and typed, "Divorce lawyers near me." Then he closed it. Not yet. Maybe things would get better. Maybe she just needed this phase to pass. Maybe he was overreacting. But deep down, in the part of himself he tried to ignore, he knew. This wasn't a phase. This was who they'd become, a woman who was never there and a man who kept pretending it didn't matter. 2 weeks later, she left for the retreat on a Friday morning with barely a goodbye. Nathan spent the weekend organizing his thoughts, making lists, finally allowing himself to acknowledge what he'd been denying for months. When she returned Sunday night, glowing and refreshed, she didn't notice that he'd moved his clothes into the guest room. The marriage counselor's office smelled like lavender and false hope. Dr. Patricia Morrison sat across from them with her notepad, her kind eyes moving between Nathan and Olivia like a referee at a tennis match. "So," Dr. Morrison began, "what brings you both here today?" Nathan looked at Olivia, waiting for her to speak first. When she remained silent, scrolling subtly through her phone under her purse, he sighed. "I feel invisible in my own marriage," he said simply. Olivia's head snapped up. "That's dramatic." "Is it?" Nathan turned to face her fully. "When's the last time we had a conversation that wasn't you telling me about your plans with other people?" "I don't know. When's the last time you showed interest in my life?" "I ask you questions every day, Liv. You just never stick around long enough to answer them in more than 2 sentences before you're out the door." Dr. Morrison held up a hand. "Let's try to avoid accusations. Nathan, can you give me a specific example of when you felt invisible?" He didn't even have to think. "Last Tuesday. I got the promotion I've been working toward for 3 years. Regional director. It's a huge deal. I came home early to celebrate. The house was empty. No note, no text. She came home at midnight. I was at the theater with Bethany." Olivia protested. "We had those tickets for months." "You bought them the week before," Nathan corrected quietly. "And I'd told you about my final interview. I'd told you they'd be announcing the decision that day." Olivia's mouth opened, then closed. I thought that was the following week." "See?" Nathan looked at Dr. Morrison. "That's what I mean. The details of my life don't stick because she's not present for them." "That's not fair," Olivia said, tears forming. "I'm here now, aren't I? I came to counseling. I'm trying." "You're 40 minutes late," Nathan pointed out. "The session started at 6. You arrived at 6:40. Dr. Morrison checked her notes. "Olivia, is punctuality something you struggle with?" "I just lose track of time sometimes." "Is that a crime?" "No," Dr. Morrison said gently, "but it can be a symptom of where your priorities lie." "Nathan, how did it make you feel when Olivia arrived late today?" "Like I always feel. Like I'm not important enough to be on time for." The session continued for another hour, tears from Olivia, frustration from Nathan, and careful mediation from Dr. Morrison. By the end, they had homework, scheduled date nights, daily check-ins, dedicated phone-free time together. For 2 weeks, Olivia tried. She really did. They had 3 dinners together, just the 2 of them. She put her phone away during their check-ins. She even cancelled one pottery class to stay home and watch a movie with Nathan. But old habits are comfortable shoes, and new ones pinch. By week 3, the pottery class was back on. By week 4, she'd signed up for a weekend wine tour in Napa. "It's Bethany's birthday celebration," she explained when Nathan questioned it. "I can't miss that. She'd be devastated." "What about our scheduled weekend?" Nathan asked, holding up the calendar where they'd blocked out those days for a camping trip, something Dr. Morrison had suggested. "We can reschedule. One weekend won't matter." But it did matter. It mattered tremendously. That night, Nathan sat in his office, door closed, and finally made the call he'd been putting off. "Davis and Associates Realty, this is Vernon speaking." "Hi, Vernon. I need to discuss listing my house." "Wonderful. Is this a joint decision with your spouse?" Nathan looked at his wedding ring, twisted it slowly. "No. Just mine. I'll need to handle this carefully." "I understand. These situations require discretion. Let me get some information from you." When Olivia poked her head in an hour later to say goodnight before bed, Nathan was researching storage units and apartment complexes. "Working late?" she asked. "Always," he replied, not turning around. She didn't notice the real estate website on his screen or the divorce attorney's number written on the notepad by his keyboard. She simply kissed the air near his head and floated away, already texting Bethany about Napa wine selections. Nathan waited until he heard the bedroom door close. Then he opened a new document and began typing a list, things to do before she returns. The marriage was over. He just needed to make it official. The coffee shop where Nathan met his lawyer was deliberately chosen, across town, nowhere Olivia or her friends would ever venture. Rebecca Walsh was sharp, efficient, and sympathetic without being patronizing. Walk me through it one more time, she said, reviewing her notes. You want to file for divorce, sell the house, and have her served while she's away. That's aggressive, Nathan. It's necessary. He stirred his coffee absently. If I tell her I want a divorce while she's here, she'll cry, promise to change, and drag this out for months. I've seen this pattern before. She'll commit to counseling she won't attend, promise date nights she'll cancel, and make me feel guilty for having boundaries. Rebecca studied him. You sound certain. I am. He pulled out his phone, showed her the calendar app. This is April. Count the red marks. Those are evenings or weekends she was gone. Now May. Now June so far. I'm not exaggerating when I say I'm alone 6 days a week. Have you documented everything? I'll need specifics for the filing. I have a journal. Dates, times, events missed, conversations we didn't have. He slid a flash drive across the table. It's all there. A year's worth of documentation. Rebecca plugged it into her laptop, her expression shifting as she scrolled. Nathan, this is thorough. Almost painfully so. I'm an engineer. Documentation is what I do. These entries, she said softly, reading aloud. April 12th. Olivia promised to attend company dinner. Arrived 2 hours late, left after appetizers for Bethany's emergency that turned out to be a broken nail. My boss asked if everything was okay at home. I lied and said yes. Nathan, why did you wait so long? He was quiet for a moment. Because I kept thinking it was temporary. That she'd wake up one day and realize what she was doing. That I'd matter enough to her to change. He laughed bitterly. Turns out I don't. All right. Rebecca closed her laptop. Here's what we'll do. You'll file this week. We'll request an expedited hearing given the circumstances. No kids, no contested assets, straightforward division of property. I'll have the papers drawn up to be served next Friday when she's at her spa weekend. She'll be devastated, Nathan said, though his voice held no satisfaction. Maybe. Or maybe she'll be relieved. Rebecca gathered her materials. Sometimes people stay in marriages out of habit. Not love. You might be doing both of you a favor. That evening, Nathan went home to the empty house. Olivia was at her book club, and began the real work. He sorted through 8 years of accumulated life, wedding gifts from people whose names he'd forgotten, photos from trips that seemed like someone else's memories, the debris of a relationship that had slowly decayed from neglect. Some things went into boxes marked Olivia. Some went into donation bags. Some went straight into the trash. He found their wedding album buried under a stack of Olivia's pottery magazines. He flipped through it slowly, studying the faces of 2 people who'd promised forever. The groom looked hopeful. The bride looked radiant. Neither of them looked like who they'd become. There was a photo of them during the vows, hands clasped, eyes locked. He tried to remember what he'd been thinking in that moment. Probably something about their future, about growing old together, about building something beautiful and lasting. He'd built something, all right. A house full of one person's things and another person's absence. His phone buzzed, Olivia texting that book club was running late, she'd grab dinner with the girls, don't wait up. The message had 3 typos and no punctuation. She couldn't even be bothered to proofread a text to her husband anymore. Nathan didn't respond. Instead, he called Vernon at the realty office. I'm ready to list it. As soon as possible. Excellent. I can have the sign installed Friday morning. Listing goes live by afternoon. Perfect. She'll be gone from Friday morning until Sunday evening. And you're certain about this timeline? Nathan looked around the living room, at the couch where they used to watch movies together, now mostly holding Olivia's shopping bags. At the kitchen table where they used to eat breakfast together, now covered in her craft supplies. At the walls that used to display their memories, now decorated with her pottery class creations. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. The next week passed in a blur of signatures, boxes, and quiet preparation. Olivia noticed nothing. She was too busy planning her spa weekend, coordinating outfits with Bethany, researching the best facial treatments. Thursday night, their last night before she left, Nathan cooked dinner. Olivia breezed in at 9, surprised to see food on the table. "Oh, you cooked. That's sweet." She grabbed a plate, ate standing up. "This is great, babe, but I'm exhausted. Early start tomorrow." "Have a good trip," Nathan said. "I will. Don't burn the house down while I'm gone." She laughed at her own joke, completely unaware of the irony. Nathan didn't sleep that night. He lay in the guest room, his room now, really, and waited for morning. Waited for the end. Olivia sat in her car, divorce papers spread across the passenger seat, trying to understand how her life had collapsed in the time it took to get a seaweed wrap and a Swedish massage. The words on the legal documents swam before her eyes: irreconcilable differences, division of assets, dissolution of marriage. Her phone had 17 missed calls, from her mother, from Bethany, from friends who'd apparently known before she did that her marriage was ending. But she couldn't bring herself to call anyone back. Not yet. Instead, she did something she hadn't done in months. She sat still and thought about Nathan. Really thought about him. When was the last time she'd asked about his work? Not just how was your day in passing, but genuinely engaged with what he did, what he cared about. When was the last time she'd surprised him with anything? A favorite meal, a small gift, even just her undivided attention. She pulled out her phone and scrolled back through their text messages. The pattern was devastating in its clarity, him asking where she was, when she'd be home, if they could talk. Her sending brief responses about being busy, running late, making other plans. "I'll be home late, book club. Can't do dinner, pottery class. Going to Bethany's, girls' night. Weekend trip, back Sunday." Every message from him was a reaching out. Every message from her was a pulling away. The memory hit her like a physical blow, their anniversary dinner. She'd completely forgotten until he'd said something. And even then, even with him sitting across from her with that wounded look in his eyes, she'd minimized it. Made excuses. Blamed her busy schedule instead of her misplaced priorities. How many times had he tried? How many hints had she missed? How many times had he sat alone in their house, waiting for her, wondering if he mattered? The answer was everywhere. In the carefully packed boxes labeled with her name. In the efficiently organized divorce papers. In the for sale sign planted in their yard like a flag of surrender. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. This was a man who'd reached the end of his rope and found it frayed beyond repair. Olivia's hands shook as she called her mother. "Oh, honey," her mother answered immediately. "I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Did you know?" Olivia demanded. "He said he called you." Her mother sighed. "He called Tuesday. Said you'd need a place to stay. Asked if I could be available this weekend. And you didn't warn me? You didn't think to call?" "Olivia," her mother said firmly, "what exactly would I have warned you about? That your husband was finally standing up for himself? That he was tired of being treated like an afterthought?" The words were a slap. "You're taking his side." There are no sides in a marriage, sweetheart. Only two people who either work together or fall apart. A pause. Be honest with yourself. When's the last time you chose him over anything else? Olivia opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came. She couldn't remember. Not a single instance in recent memory where Nathan had been her priority. Where she'd cancelled plans for him, surprised him, put his needs first. "That's what I thought," her mother said softly. "Come home. We'll talk more when you get here." But Olivia didn't start the car. Instead, she got out and walked back toward the house. Her house. Their house. The life she'd taken for granted until it was being literally sold out from under her. Nathan's car pulled into the driveway. He saw her standing on the lawn and his expression closed off, became unreadable. "I asked you to be gone," he said, not unkindly. "I need to understand." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I need you to explain it to me. Please." "Explain what?" "How many times I sat alone at restaurants waiting for you. How many important moments you missed. How many times I felt like a roommate instead of a husband. His voice remained calm, which somehow hurt worse than if he'd yelled. I've been explaining for a year, Liv. You just never listened. I'm listening now. It's too late. He gestured at the house. This isn't anger or revenge. This is acceptance. We're not married anymore, we haven't been for a long time. We just kept pretending. We can fix this. Desperation crept into her voice. I'll change. I'll cancel everything. We'll start over. You said that after our anniversary dinner. You promised after I got my promotion. You committed to it in couples therapy. Nathan shook his head. But 2 weeks later, you were back to the same patterns. Because you don't want to change, Liv. You want to keep doing exactly what you're doing and have me be okay with it. That's not true. Isn't it? He pulled out his phone, showed her his calendar. This month alone, you were gone or busy 23 out of 30 days. We had 3 actual conversations longer than 5 minutes. 2 meals together. 0 date nights, despite promising Dr. Morrison we'd have them weekly. She stared at the calendar, at the undeniable documentation of her absence. I didn't realize. That's the problem. You didn't realize because you didn't care enough to pay attention. His voice cracked slightly, the first sign of emotion. I've been drowning, Olivia. Drowning in a marriage where I'm the only one swimming. I can't do it anymore. Tears streamed down her face. So that's it. 8 years and you're just done. I've been done for 6 months. I just finally accepted it. He moved toward the house. Your things are packed. The divorce is filed. The house will sell. And we'll both move on to lives that make us happier. I won't be happier without you. Nathan stopped, looked back at her with something like pity. Maybe not. But you'll be exactly the same, busy with friends, full of plans, never home. The only difference is you won't have someone waiting anymore who wishes you'd stay. He went inside, leaving her on the lawn with the for sale sign and the wreckage of her choices. Olivia stood there as the sun set, watching lights turn on in houses up and down the street. Families gathering for dinner. Couples settling in for the evening. Lives being lived together, not in parallel. She'd built a life of constant motion, of filling every moment with activities and people and noise. She'd told herself it was healthy, that maintaining her identity was important, that Nathan understood. But he hadn't understood. He'd been slowly breaking apart while she'd been too busy to notice. Her phone buzzed, Bethany asking about brunch tomorrow, about their next girls' trip, about a new wine bar opening downtown. Olivia turned off her phone. She loaded the boxes into her car slowly, methodically. Each one a piece of a life she'd neglected until it disintegrated. Each one a reminder of what she'd had and squandered. As she drove away, she saw Nathan through the window, standing in their empty living room. He didn't look sad. He didn't look angry. He looked peaceful. Free. And that, more than anything, showed her the truth. He'd already grieved their marriage. He'd already said goodbye. While she'd been busy living her separate life, he'd been slowly letting go of theirs. The for sale sign grew smaller in her rearview mirror, but the lesson stayed large. Love isn't something you can leave unattended and expect to find thriving when you finally remember to check on it. It's something you feed daily with presence, attention, and choice. She'd chosen everything else. And now, driving toward her mother's house with her marriage in boxes in her backseat, she finally understood what her choices had cost her. Everything that mattered.